Yes, I am back. It's a Monday and the Super Bowl is in the books. So let's get straight into it.
I just wanna rewind to when we were young and hard. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Oh, it is a Monday. I am back. I am joined by, according to last week's show, the best one of the Wildcard Rewind. That is Lewis Wood. How are you, mate? Have you got much sleep?
I am tired, is how I am. I was all right this morning, and then I started really struggling into the afternoon. And I went for a little work from home today. Went for a little nap, and thought I'll get a little half an hour in, and then woke up 2.5 hours later. Thankfully, I'm working with notes at the minute, so no one had emailed me. But yeah, the day after the Super Bowl, if you've not taken it off work in the UK, is a really tough one.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a weird one for me because I normally go out to some Super Bowl party in some pub in some city and just get very intoxicated with my friends. So this was a different one for me. So yes, I'm feeling very tired, but also I'm probably feeling a lot better than I would if I'd have gone to some bar somewhere and drunk a lot of alcohol. So
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling quite good, but I think what do you think? So I'm going to ask you first. What do you think of these people that don't stop up and watch the Super Bowl and they watch it the next day? Do you think these people are smart people because they stay off all social media and then just watch the game the next day, and they have like 8-9 hours sleep and they're perfect? Or do you think they're idiots because they go to bed really early and they don't sit up till stupid o'clock in the morning and experience it live?
Like I think they're smarter. But I think part of the joy, and I always get this with the Rams being on the West Coast and staying up to watch games when they start at 1 o'clock in the morning. I think part of the joy is being able to like be in Discord and be on Twitter and be chatting with your mates and like be experiencing that in real time at the same time everyone is. Whereas if you're sort of just doing it by yourself the next day, if you even manage to avoid spoilers, like which is so tough when like every news website is going to be talking about the result in the Super Bowl, so you're just going to have to spend a day not doing anything, not talking to any mates, not going on any social media. And I think part of the joy is, yeah, being part of that and you're witnessing it in real time. Like for me, I always, aside from the COVID year, I always have mates round or we'll go out somewhere and I'll cook. So normally I'll have people around and I'll cook a ridiculous amount of food and do something really fun. And it's a real experience. Like I just can't imagine, I wouldn't trade not being tired today for missing out on that experience on the night.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. It was a different one for me. Um, so stopping at home for it was a bit of a different one. So the wife said, "Oh, I'll stop up with you," but she still had work today. So I was like, I'm a bit skeptical on how much you're going to make of this. You're not an NFL fan. She doesn't care anything about
Yeah.
NFL at all. I think she was just there for the buffalo chicken wings, if I'm honest. But she made, I think she was flagging sort of like end of the first quarter, and there was a lot of questions. There was a lot of, why are they stopping for an ad break already? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? So if anything, it was a bit distracting. But she made
Yeah.
the halftime show. But I had my eldest daughter who made it to the end, and didn't watch any of the football at all. Just scrolled TikTok for like 5 hours, But I had company.
Yeah, you had company. Is it a Taylor Swift thing with her, or was she just excited to stay up with dad?
I think it was more the fact that she was allowed to stop up late.
Okay.
And I think it was just, I could stop up till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I said to her, I said many a times, you can go to bed if you want. You can go to bed if you want. And she was like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
She didn't, like I said, you could have pointed her chair away from the TV because she wasn't that bothered with what was going on. It's just the fact that she could stay up. So it's nice to have a bit of company, but I'm inclined to agree with you. I don't think I could do this where I go to bed and sleep. Even if I'm not chatting to people, I just prefer to watch it live. So I've not got that risk of the spoilers,
if I tried to avoid it and had planned out to watch it later that day, and then I got because it's the thing, if people know you're into the NFL, I'll get texts off mates who I don't really speak to, and a message off my dad the next day who doesn't really follow the NFL. Like the amount you're going to have to do to avoid it, if you then got spoiled, Jesus, like there's just no chance.
So my older brother was somebody that went to bed and didn't stop up for it or anything like that. Me and my little brother stopped up. We were constantly texting throughout the whole thing. So we've
Yeah.
got brothers chat. So we've filled that brothers chat with literally every talking point that was there throughout the night. We were texting each other. So I hope my older brothers woke up and just looked in there and gone. And the first message he sees is, "Oh my God, the Chiefs have done it," and stuff like that. Just kids across the room and stuff like that, but no, but yeah. So I realized that we haven't actually announced that the Kansas City Chiefs won the Taylor Swift Bowl. Right, let's get into the game. Let's get into the game because I feel like there's so much to talk about this game, and I've been excited to just chat crap with somebody. So Lewis, we've spoken about stopping up for the game and everything. What did you think of the game itself?
So the first thing I'll say, like, I think there's 2 points here, which is like the enjoyment side and the analytical side, and that bit in terms of like the football itself, and then the pure emotional side of watching the Niners choke in the Super Bowl again. Like you and I were messaging about that last night. That like as fellow NFC West fans, I was so rooting for the Chiefs because I was like, just not the Niners, anyone but the Niners. And to see them, this is now 3 Super Bowls in a row for Kyle Shanahan that he has thrown away a lead of 10 plus points. Like to see them not only, it's the most fun thing for me, not only lose, but lose having again been the better team and should have gone on to win and throw it away. That was so much fun for me. Like I was celebrating like mad at the Hardman touchdown. And to be fair, any positive play for the Chiefs or negative play for the Niners, like I hate them so much, and I was so happy to see them lose. I know we'll come on later to a little bit about kind of what went wrong for the Niners and what's the future for them, and like have they missed the window. But in terms of then the game itself, and I think this is a really interesting one that for a lot of people that will have stayed up to watch the Super Bowl that aren't hugely into the NFL, especially in the first half, you'll have gone, that was really boring. Where are all the touchdowns? We saw 13 points in the first half. But actually, I thought it was a really interesting game. And I think it's the nature of two absolute Goliaths going up against each other. And sometimes it can be very interesting, like in the Super Bowl last year, where it's just trading touchdowns every single drive. And it's just who's going to end up with more points on the board, who's going to end up with 40 plus. Um, whereas last night was more of a kind of, okay, well, these teams have kind of got each other's number. So if you can score, that might be enough. It was really interesting to me. And also I think in terms of if you're someone that really enjoys the X's and O's and like a lot of different contributors, special teams was a huge part of this game. And I think getting to enjoy all different parts of it not following the narrative of people beforehand, I had a touchdown knacker of like CMC, Kelsey, Debo, Rice, but whatever doesn't follow what people think beforehand of all of these stars on offense that are absolutely going to blow things out of the water. It was lots of players we didn't expect, and it was lots of ways of winning that we didn't expect, which I think made it really fun. Actually, that it was not the game that we'd kind of hoped for going in, but a really interesting chess match at the same time.
Yeah. So I watched mine on Sky Sports, and it was something they said at half time, and they were like, oh, we spoke so much about the receiving core in the 49ers, where you've got Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, you've got CMC, and then we spoke so much about the quarterbacks that was Pat Mahomes and Brock Purdy and what they've done and everything like this. And then at the end of the first half, you've got one touchdown caught by Juwan Jennings, and you got one. No, it wasn't. It was caught by CMC, wasn't it?
Thrown by Juwan Jennings.
But it was thrown by Juwan Jennings. And you're going, we've spoke so much about these quarterbacks, and actually it was Juwan Jennings who threw the touchdown and stuff. And you were like, it's just, and you know what I mean? And it was just one of them. But I completely agree with you. I think it was that first half was very much two really, really good defenses, just sort of what's the word, like throwing punches at each other as such, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was just that pass protection from the Chiefs was just phenomenal, and you were just watching them and you were going, actually they are really good, and they had everyone's numbers. And then you know that 49ers sort of the pass rush and everything like that, they were they were incredible. It was, and you know, neither team could sort of get anything going, and we saw a lot of punts and everything like that. And then we saw the record broken for the longest field goal in the first half, which was then broken again in the second half, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was just, but that it just goes to show the narrative of the game. Like, you know, they could only get certain points, and they had to go for these really long field goals because they just wanted to get something. They just wanted to get points and stuff like that. But ultimately, I completely agree with you. As a Cardinals fan, I absolutely hate the 49ers. So when the Chiefs scored that touchdown, and it was literally like 3 seconds before the end of the first quarter or first bit of overtime, because they did explain it just and when they scored it, then I literally jumped down on my seat 4 o'clock in the morning celebrating. And it was, you know, honestly, if you were an outsider watching me, you'd have thought that I was a Chiefs fan, the way I was celebrating, because it was just like, it was just euphoria, you know. And the Cardinals are probably never going to make it, so take what I can, you know.
This is what you've got. It was that sort of, so, you know, when you watch your own team versus when you watch a game that you're kind of invested in but it's not your team. So if I'm watching the Rams, every time an opposing offense throws an incomplete pass, I'm like punching the air, or like we'll get a first down on a crucial third down, and I'm really celebrating. And it was like that for me last night, that like every time basically the 49ers didn't move the ball or the Chiefs moved the ball, I was celebrating like I was rooting for the Rams. That those little things, as opposed to, you know, oh, I'm excited when a touchdown happens. No, like, oh, there's been a really good special teams play, they've blocked the field goal, oh, I'm crazy excited about that. It's mad the way that fandom doesn't just work through love, it can also motivate you through hatred.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When, you know, when the 49ers going 3 and out, and then the Chiefs get it back, I'm going, come on, let's move the sticks now. And then they go 3 and out, and I'm going, God damn it. And just, you know what I mean? And then there's a punt, and then it bounces off the player's foot. I can't remember which player it was, and it bounces off his foot, and the Chiefs recover it. And I'm like, come on, come on. You know what I mean? It's genuinely, you could have put a Chiefs shirt on me, and you could have swore blind I was a Chiefs fan last night. It was a roller coaster of emotion last night, to be fair, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. Like you said, for a neutral fan to stop up and watch the Super Bowl and see that, they'd have been, this is a really shit game. But actually, it was, as a NFL fan, it was a really good game. It was two really good teams sort of going at each other. But let's chat a little bit more about the teams. So let's chat the 49ers first. Where do you think it sort of went wrong for these? Where do you think it went wrong for the 49ers in this game?
So the big thing for me is, and I've seen a lot of people talking about the second half for the 49ers as kind of when it fell to pieces, and, you know, abandoning the run, which I do think was a huge thing, because CMC looked like the only player who can actually, you know, put the team on his back. We know that CMC is the MVP of the team, and I always thought it was going to be a not great game for Brandon Ayuk. Going up against the Chiefs cornerbacks, you just knew that could potentially be a problem for him. Deebo Samuel obviously got hurt. George Kittle was mostly being kept in to block. Brock Purdy, that's a different conversation. Brock Purdy's Brock Purdy. But for me, it wasn't the second half where they lost the game. It was the first half. And that seems weird when they went in up at the end of the first half. But I was watching the whole thing just going, you can't end this game by giving Patrick Mahomes a chance to win it. It has to be, even if you were like only, you know, even if you were 10 points up, he's got a chance to drive down the field twice and win it. You just can't afford to do that. And so to me, not taking the chances in the first half, like obviously the CMC fumble to open the game, stalling out in the red zone, like only managing to score a touchdown off a trick play. It's obviously super exciting, but like your offense is good enough that you should be able to score through playing normally and playing to your normal scheme. To me, the inability to put the Chiefs away in the first half, when the Chiefs scored 3 points Like the Chiefs scored 3 points in the first half. They nearly went in scoreless. They couldn't do anything on offense. And to me, the issue with the 49ers was that they didn't really capitalize on that dominance. Like we said, that the 49ers D line, you could tell Joe Tooney missing, but also that the tackles aren't amazing on the Chiefs. Nick Bosa and Chase Young were absolutely running away with the game. They could do anything they wanted. They could get to Mahomes, and I know flushing him out the pocket isn't great, but actually forcing him to just go backwards, so you're setting quite a wide edge. So you actually don't let him scramble out to the side. You just force him to go back deeper into the pocket, and then obviously is further away from converting, and it takes a much bigger throw or a much bigger play to get them out of it. But they were so dominant in that first half, but the offense just could not convert. And I think that was where they lost the game. They could easily have gone in at the end of that first half up by multiple scores. And then it's, you've still got the best player in football opposite you, but it's closer to being out of sight. And yeah, to me, the moment that the Chiefs looked so bad in the first half, but only went in one touchdown behind, the game was kind of done to me. Like, you can't give Patrick Mahomes a chance because he will take it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A lot of people are saying whatever they want, and Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes, but I completely agree with you. The 49ers didn't put it to bed. If they'd have put it to bed at halftime, it would have been a completely different story coming out in the second half. Now, don't get me wrong, Pat Mahomes with nothing to lose is a scary thought,
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes coming out there, 2 scores down, absolutely nothing to lose. One of the best tight ends in front of him, one of the best head coaches behind him, sort of thing. You know what I mean? It does that does worry me and what he could have done, but ultimately, yeah, I completely agree with you. The 49ers should have put this game to bed by halftime, and it should have been done and dusted, but they didn't. They didn't, and that's what cost them. That's what
Yeah.
cost them. It was that, but I will pick up on something that you did say, and that's CMC. I don't know. So we always talk about in fantasy, you want a running back that plays on a Kyle Shanahan style offense, because he always uses the running backs better than anyone else, and you see that with coaches that have worked alongside him. They've picked up like little tricks and things that he does and everything like this, and it's always quite running back heavy. And you saw that in the first half. You saw him use CMC, and CMC was just pounding through everything. And you were like, this guy's unreal. Like, you know what I mean? He is fabulous, an absolutely amazing player. And like you said, he is the MVP of that team. And he is the only player we spoke about this quite a lot on this podcast. Somebody that's willing to put the team on their back and, run with that team. And that's Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes does that for the Chiefs. He'll put the team on his back and away he goes. CMC is that guy. Now, the first half, you used him a lot. The second half, they didn't seem to use him. And that's when they sort of went, oh, we're going to do these trick plays. And don't get me wrong, there was a couple of good passive plays where Ayuk got a couple of, receptions and stuff like this. And it was great. But you were like, why aren't you running the ball more, And then they got to overtime and then they marched downfield. And yeah, okay, they only walked away with a field goal, but they marched downfield because they gave Christian McCaffrey the ball every time. And he just kept running and running and running and running. You were like, oh, okay, so you've gone back to the run and now you've marched all the way downfield again. And I'm like, is anyone else seeing this? I wouldn't like to put myself in that position where I go, I'd be a really good head coach, but I'm sort of going, surely Kyle Shanahan can see this. Surely he could see that Christian McCaffrey is making progress and moving the sticks and doing all this, but I don't know, he just went away from that, and I don't want to sit here and say his problem was he didn't use CMC the best he could, but to me, I don't understand why he didn't give him more of the ball in the second half. Now, don't get me wrong, he rushed the ball 22 times in this game, so he did actually see quite a lot of the ball as such, But I don't know. The Chiefs have been known to be one of the worst teams against the run this year. And you've got Kyle Shanahan with the best running back in football.
Yeah.
Surely you'd have expected more from him. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it was the second half for CMC, because obviously you look at the box score and you see that CMC touched the ball 30 times, right? So 22 carries for 80 yards and 8 receptions for 80 yards, including a touchdown, which is, by the way, no other 49ers receiver went over 50 yards or had more than 4 receptions, whereas Christian McCaffrey had 8 for 80 yards and a touchdown, which is crazy. So you look at that and you think, okay, well, he touched the ball 30 times. That's kind of what you want from a running back. But, and I don't have the split in front of me in terms of when did he when were those touches, how many were in the first half and how many were in the
I was looking
second
for that
half.
earlier and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, but it felt to me that the touches seemed like they gave him the ball in a completely justifiable amount, but I feel like you could have just kept feeding him, or even if Carl Shanahan's run game is supposed to be this incredible beast, and it was something, so I spoke about this on the last show about the 49ers preference for their zone scheme rushing offense, and the Chiefs, I don't have the stat in front of me, but the Chiefs were awful against zone running teams. They really struggled against inside zone and outside zone. If you don't want to feed CMC because CMC is starting to get tired or whatever, like, you can run the ball more with Debo, you can run the ball more with Eli Mitchell, you can run the ball more with Juszczyk. Like, you have an opportunity to still make something happen. I mean, Eli Mitchell only touched the ball twice, and that was both kind of in relief of an absolutely gassed CMC. So it felt to me like we knew beforehand that the Chiefs' defense was going to be more vulnerable on the ground and through the air, mostly because of Pro Bowler, All Pro L'Jarius Sneed, but it felt to me like you either could have kept feeding CMC or you could have found more wrinkles in the running game. Like, I mean, even against the Packers and against the Lions, Brock Purdy made some plays on the ground. Like, he is relatively mobile. We saw Patrick Mahomes, running an option to convert on fourth down, and he was the Chiefs' leading rusher. Like, I just felt like that they could have done more to try and open things up in the running game, even if it's not just continually feeding CMC. Although I think that's a great option if you can do it. But I felt like sort of moving away from the run was clearly going to be the biggest issue, and was clearly something that cost them.
Yeah, Brock Purdy rushed for 3 times for 12 yards.
Yeah,
So you know what I mean. Maybe you could have you could have few trick plays in there. Maybe you could have got him more involved, but I don't know. I just feel like the 49ers. I don't want to say they're done.
yeah.
I don't want to say they're done because they're an absolute phenomenal team. But do you think this was maybe their last chance with that team? Because obviously a lot of these players, we spoke about it before, and a lot of these players are coming up to contracts and stuff like that, and you've got a lot of big names on there. You can't afford to pay a lot of big names and keep all of this team together. Obviously, it's helped a lot by the fact that your quarterback costs you, 750,000, or it costs you less to pay your quarterback for a year than it does to get a box at the Super Bowl. So obviously, that helps a lot. But do you think that maybe you see a couple of these big names maybe move on this year, or?
Well, I hope so. That's my big answer is I hope that this was it for the Niners. So the big thing is for me is obviously you have a window while Purdy's on the rookie contract, but you'll be going into year 3 next year, so you're probably looking. I mean, obviously he's very much not a first round pick. We know that, so it's a 4-year deal. So he's probably want to be getting paid next off season, and you kind of then lose the window. And they have managed to not be hamstrung by the Trey Lance trade because they've managed to save salary elsewhere by starting Brock Purdy. So they've managed to then spread it around to all of those weapons we've spoken about: CMC, Trent Williams, Devo Samuel's been paid, George Kittle, and on defense, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. Like, they can afford to do it. They are the third oldest team in the NFL this season. And to me, this was the year that someone else was supposed to win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were dreadful down the stretch. They really brought it together in the playoffs because they know how to, and experience is a big thing. But to me, like, this was the year to win the Super Bowl because the Chiefs fell to pieces, the Eagles fell to pieces, the Cowboys fell to pieces. Like, the Rams were in a massive rebuilding year. The Packers and Lions obviously could be potential um, going into next season, and obviously having a relatively young core. But like, this was it. This was the opportunity to go and win it when it was a down year for everyone else, and especially it was a down year for the dynasty. It was a down year for Mahomes and the Chiefs. If you can't do it this year, it's just so much harder. The interesting thing to me is. Obviously, to degenerates out there, the markets on the 2025 Super Bowl champions have just opened, and the 49ers have opened as the favourites, which I think is interesting. I refuse to ever bet against Patrick Mahomes. I've, I've done it a couple of times this year, and I'm not doing it ever again. So it's interesting that clearly the market thinks that the 49ers can run it back next season, but that team is continuing to get older. Trent Williams will be 36 next season, and we've seen the way that they really struggled in those few games without him when they had the 3-game loss streak. CMC, we're kind of waiting for him to fall off. It doesn't really seem to be happening anytime soon. He's obviously reached the age that we think a running back probably should be starting to see the decline. Again, he'll be 28 going into next season. Like, we think a running back should probably be starting to lose it by then, but he will. He's not. He's the best running back in the NFL, but he's not like immune from the effects of time. I think there's a world in which, and again, like Debo's body continuing to break down. We know his play style kind of leads to soft tissue injuries, and he's had a fair few in the time in his NFL. We know Dre Greenlaw is going to miss some time at the beginning of the season after tearing his Achilles running onto the pitch, which I don't like celebrating an injury, but I don't like Dre Greenlaw, so I was fine with. There's just a world in which, to me, like, this was the year when you had everything together. You had a really controlled salary cap. Your players are, a lot of your core is aging, but they're still in their prime. And the rest of the NFL is having a down year, especially the Chiefs. Like, that felt like that was the window.
Yeah, man, don't you just hate it when the Chiefs have a down year?
and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and still manage to put it all together and win it all, bastards. Yeah, I'm inclined to be with you a little bit. I kind of hope that the 49ers don't run it back next year, and they don't. I'd like to see this team maybe start to fall apart, pieces start to go, players start to drop off that sort of top class standard, and maybe start sort of do that. But I don't know, it's hard. Maybe they've got another year.
Yeah.
And like you said, Brock Purdy, what does he demand? Because he is on a really cheap contract that he was. But if they're going to basically say he's their starter going forward, then does he sit there and go, I want a big payday? I want to be paid. If you want me to be a quarterback, I want to get paid. And I don't know, maybe they have, but I think it's too early. I know, like you said, the 2025 Super Bowl, they've released the thing. I think it's too early to say the 49ers are the favorites. I wouldn't like to place a bet on the Super Bowl winning team till sort of like, at least halfway through. Well, I'm thinking halfway through the season. I want to see how things are working out, how players are sort of, working at gelling as a team and stuff like that. We looked at this year, and a lot of people would have said, "Oh no, I'm not betting on the Chiefs. They're having a down year," But actually, they still played really well. But
like, I mean, the Rams were I think the second favorite for the #1 overall pick at this time last year. Like, things can really, really turn around in an off season. The 49ers
Cardinals were the favorites,
and managed to not. The 49ers are 11.8 million projected over the cap for next season, with only 45 rostered players, which is the second lowest in the NFL, behind the Chiefs, actually, which is interesting. But yeah, like, when you look at the cap hits, they've got 5 players with cap hits over 20 million for next season. And then if you go down to like 40 million, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 players with cap hits over 14 million next season. Like, that's not going to be sustainable when you have to start thinking of paying a quarterback, which they're going to have to start thinking of doing relatively soon.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the Chiefs. Let's have a little chat. What do you think the Chiefs did well last night? You know, keeping Travis Kelsey off the pitch, keep showing us, keep showing us Taylor Swift. You know, and how excited she was, and chugging beers and stuff. You know, or...
I was just going to bring that up that don't I like the Taylor Swift Travis Kelsey thing because I think it seems like they love each other and I'm a romantic and that's nice. I have never been hugely keen on Taylor Swift's music, like she doesn't bother me too much. When it cut to her and she necked that pint, I'm all in. I'm fine. I'm completely fine with it. That is all. And I know that it's a rehearsed PR moment to try and appeal to NFL fans who are idiots and want to see people down in pints. But the moment she did it, I was like, yeah, all right, Taylor Swift, let's go.
You know, what topped it off for me is she came down to the pitch and like stumbled because she's hanging, like, you know what I mean? Just like
absolutely, she's off her
absolutely,
face.
absolutely,
She's like smacked a 49ers
like, you know
player
I mean?
and she goes
Yeah,
past.
yeah, why not? No, I'm, you know what I mean? I lived through the era of Posh and Becks. Okay,
Yeah.
You did as well. I remember Posh and Becks. They were everywhere. They were the power couple and everything like that. I think this is Posh and Becks on steroids. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Posh and Becks on steroids, everything like that. You know, a lot of people are not happy. Oh, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. Oh, she's here. She's not there. Oh, she's got to do this. She's got to do that. You know what? She is one of the biggest names in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what the NFL are doing. Put her name out there. We're going to get so much more publicity. Sorry, not public. So much more publicity. I completely get it. But we're not here to talk about Taylor Swift. We're here to talk about the Chiefs and how well they did. Pat Mahomes, how does he do it? I just don't know how he does it. How he makes these plays sometimes, how he does these things. That run play, that big run play he had was just that. That's Andy Reid's head in a play. That is, you know what I mean? He sent everyone. And you look at some of the names on that 49ers defense, you're talking Nick Bosa, Trout Williams, all of these, they're all gone. They're all gone. And Pat Mahomes is running, just like, okay, I'll just get 20 yards. No worries. Like, you know what I mean? You just say like, what? This is just insane. How have you just made some of the best players in the NFL just look like idiots, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, the guy is just phenomenal.
It's crazy. I think to me, so I realized that you did ask me about sort of what did the Chiefs do right, and I just went, Taylor Swift necked a pint, which I did enjoy. So I think some of the more kind of X's and O's of the second half that I think there were a few points that you noticed. I mean, obviously, like the big story of the game was the Chiefs course correcting, right? And you saw, I think, a couple of things that you spotted were obviously moving away from the rushing game. So I was saying the whole time beforehand that I thought this was going to be a game that was won on the ground, and it really, well, it was by Mahomes as a designated rusher, not by running backs. So Pacheco carried the ball 18 times for 59 yards, but when you're looking at EPA per play, they lost an expected 12 points from those carries. And obviously they had fumbles as well. Like it was clearly a huge issue for them. But they'd noticed the nature of the zone defense from the 49ers and also the nature of Nick Bosa's aggressiveness and winning very quickly. So when you look at that, the triple option play, which they converted on a couple of times, you could see that Nick Bosa was they ran at Nick Bosa, like they can see him crashing away, crashing the run from the backside. They know that he's going to be aggressive, so they read it and they just go around him. Like, and you actually see Bosa, he runs far enough to tackle CEH. Like he runs far enough and tackles the guy who doesn't have the ball as Mahomes runs untouched for 22 yards down the field. Like, and again, like there's an overtime play when Mahomes again gets a completion, and it's on the 4th and 1, and it's the same triple option concept, like that play. And then also there were a couple of, I mean, you remember the big Kelsey conversion where he runs down the sideline for I think it was 20 plus yards when he's on Fred Warner. There was another. I think it was in overtime, another third down they need to convert. They spotted that the 49ers were playing a cover zero, so with playing man across the board, and you run mesh, and you confuse the defenders, and you allow the crossing routes to kind of pick off that man coverage in a completely legal way, and then kind of beat that man coverage and beat the zone defense by crossing across zones. And that was then where they managed to get their big conversions. Like, it's clearly, when you talk about what the Chiefs did right in this game, part of it is 6 years ago they drafted Patrick Mahomes, and that's kind of it on its own. But then also, like, it's Andy Reid's brain and it's Steve Spagnuolo's brain. Like, Spags had called an absolutely unbelievable game. They got such a huge amount of pressure on Purdy, especially in the second half, and especially from Chris Jones. But, like, you can tell on offense, Andy Reid had noticed in the first half why things weren't working. And even if you just look at those two plays with the triple option, with the design, with the keeper with Mahomes, and then running mesh against the zone defense and against cover zero, that's it. That's all they needed. Like, there's 4 crucial conversions from those two plays, which kind of won the game. So it's a combination. Like, Spags on defense called an unreal game. Andy Reid clearly, like, was paying attention and noticed what they needed to do in the second half. And Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, mate. It's Andy Reid notices these things, and makes adjustments. But when you've got a player like Pat Mahomes that's going to listen to your adjustments and make them adjustments and change everything and agree with it, it's got to be so easy. You've got a player like Pat Mahomes, you've got a player, you've got such a good team of players there, and Andy Reid's going, guys, I'm picking up on this, I'm adjusting, we're doing this, we're going to do this, and they're trusting him and having faith in him and going, yep, that I'm all for it. Yep. And then going out and executing that with perfection. You know what I mean? And that was just absolutely phenomenal to see. It's just so good to see. We both watch Premiership football. Both watch Premiership football, and I've seen coaches where they've made substitutes, and you've gone, why are you bringing that player off? Why are you bringing that and doing this? Yeah. And you're going, no, that's completely wrong. You've adjusted the wrong way and stuff. And then you see these other coaches, somebody like Pep Guardiola, and you watch the way that he adjusts his team, because he's literally just watching the game and going, oh, right, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. Oh, if we do this, we can completely go around the back of them and sort it. And that's Andy Reid. Andy Reid is just, he's literally, it's like the first half, he's going, guys, hang on in there. I'm gonna assess this. It's I don't know if you. So I'm going on a tandem now. Have you ever seen Captain America: Civil War?
Yeah.
So Iron Man's fighting Captain America, and he's like, we can't beat Captain America in hand-to-hand combat. And then he asks his computer to watch what he's doing, assess it, and then change the way that he's fighting. And that's what Andy Reid did yesterday. He watched the way that they were playing and then just went, okay, do you know what? I'm going to now do this and change it all up. So I'm saying Andy Reid is Iron Man,
it just makes you think. I mean, Iron Man, fucking 25 stone.
That's a big suit, isn't it?
It's a big old suit. Be a little bit tight on him, I think. It reminds. I mean, you spoke about obviously watching the Premier League, and I was at the Spurs game the other day, and it really reminds me of like we won, so it's fine. So I was sat in front of these like sort of proper football blokes, and it's when you're watching a game like this that you can watch and you can we're there going, why aren't they running with CMC? Why aren't the Chiefs throwing it to Travis Kelce? But the way that these coaches see the game and the way that they are so much more intelligent to spot the tendencies. It just reminded me of these blokes in front of me that basically anytime Spurs would get the ball on either of the wings, one guy would just shout, do him! Do him! And to the extent that by the end of the game, I was like, I can't hear a man shout the phrase "do him" again. I'm so sick of hearing the words "do him." And like, obviously, there's more to it than that, right? But it just reminded me of like us watching the game, being like, give it to CMC, throw the ball to Kelce. But these coaches watching, going, okay, well, actually, if they're going to be running a cover zero, then I think potentially using a man beater, like I think it's an interesting thing that like the way in which they can read the game is obviously so much more complicated. And just like we have to appreciate Spags and Coach Reed especially, like they were the reason this game turned around. Potentially more so than Mahomes until we got to overtime.
Yeah, and was it Adam Schefter tweeted out earlier saying that they reckon Coach Reed and Travis Kelce are both back in the Chiefs next year and stuff like this, which a lot of us just went, okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay with this, I'm okay with this, and then some people went, oh god damn it, just retire already, you know, give somebody else a chance. But no, I want to mention some other things quite quickly. I feel like we need to mention him. Obviously, Pat Mahomes was MVP, but I think there was a player on the Chiefs defense that should have been in conversation for this, and that was Chris Jones. I think he absolutely dominated that game, and there was so many plays that he caused the 49ers so many problems that, you know, it's easy to go, oh yeah, Pat Mahomes was the MVP. Yes, Pat Mahomes was the MVP because he threw the winning touchdown and he got the team down the field. But actually, Chris Jones got the 49ers off the pitch to get Pat Mahomes there to be able to do this, you know. And I know they're never going to give that MVP to anyone but Pat Mahomes last night. The same way if the 49ers won, I think you know, to me, Jawal Jennings should have had the MVP because he was amazing, but it was nobody but CMC that was going to walk away with that award the same way Pat Mahomes got it, you know. But I want to mention Chris Jones. I think he had an absolute phenomenal game and he was so good to watch, you know. What did you enjoy Chris Jones?
I really did, and I've actually found I wish I knew how to share my screen on StreamYard because there's a picture that I found, and so it's the 3rd and 4 in overtime that, you know, the 49ers have driven all the way down the field, and if they score a touchdown, everything changes. They have to kick a field goal. And there's a picture where Brandon Ayuk is open, CMC is open, Juwan Jennings is open, and George Kittle is open. All 4 of them are open. But because Chris Jones wins within 2 seconds, Brock Purdy has to throw it away immediately. That keeping them to a field goal instead of a touchdown is so huge in that situation. And you just have to consider that, like, because you can win so quickly, and keep in mind, like, I've been watching Aaron Donald as long as I've been a Rams fan. Like, you kind of learn to recognize DT play and the way that, like, you know, we can watch Jamar Chase getting open against Jalen Ramsey, but because Aaron Donald is in Joe Burrow's face, it doesn't matter. And because Chris Jones won so quickly, like, that potentially wins them the game. There was another where, again, it's not recording the box score because he doesn't get a sack, but he bears down on Brock Purdy and just gets in his face enough to mean that Brock Purdy has to change his arm angle to get it round him, which means that you can't quite find Brandon Ayuk for a pretty open touchdown. And you watch it and you watch both those plays and you think, well, Purdy's overthrown Jennings, Purdy's overthrown Ayuk. And when you actually see, you go like, no, he's got a 300-pound man screaming down his face because Chris Jones has won quicker than I can even look where the snap's gone. Like, he's won within 2 seconds. And I do wish sometimes when it came to MVP that we could have a more nuanced conversation about figuring out who the MVP is of the Super Bowl. Because obviously, as you say, it's always going to be Mahomes. Like, I was talking with my friend last night about we're talking betting beforehand, and I was saying if you think the Chiefs are going to win, you don't bet on the Chiefs money line, you bet on Patrick Mahomes MVP, because if the Chiefs win, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. There's almost no point in betting another Chiefs player. But Chris Jones had an absolutely outstanding game last night, and obviously keeping in mind he's a free agent this offseason. There is not a world in which he leaves the Chiefs, but that's going to be the absolute priority free agent for them. The Chiefs actually, they're all right for cap space, and the nature of Mahomes' deal is that they can create cap space in an instant. But I think we have to consider, like, Chris Jones was one of the main reasons that they won last night.
Yeah, but like you just said, though, Lewis, he probably was the reason that they won.
Yeah.
The 3rd and 4th, the 3rd and 4, and he created that play to stop them converting that, which meant that they kicked a field goal, which got them off the pitch with a field goal, which gave Pat Mahomes the opportunity to score a touchdown to win the game. Now, don't get me wrong, you need both players to play alongside each other, because without Chris Jones, Pat Mahomes, if they'd have scored a touchdown, you still needed Pat Mahomes to score you a touchdown, and then it's sudden death or whatnot.
Yeah.
But the fact that he held them to a field goal, that gave Pat Mahomes the opportunity to go and win it. And if I remember correctly, that play at the end where McCall Hardman was making a move in and then turned and went back out, I'm pretty sure they scored 2 touchdowns in last year's Super Bowl in exactly the same way, just on the other side, where a player run in and then run back out, and it was just an easy pass out there, and it was like, you know what I mean? And I don't think they've done any throughout the season, and then they got to the Super Bowl and gone, let's do this again,
It's the corn dog motion, and I don't really know why it's called the corn dog motion. But when they ran it, I was like, was that the same as the Tony and the Sky Moore touchdowns from last Super Bowl? Like, it's exactly the same. I think there's something so interesting about the way in which, like, you kind of protect certain plays for big moments that, like, if you needed to win in week 2, you probably wouldn't run that because you don't want people to have tape on it for later down the season. You just think, like, you look at that and it's the play design of, like, how on earth does Hardman end up that wide open? I know they're looking to Pacheco, they're looking to Kelsey, they're looking to Rice, they're looking to Mahomes using his legs, like Hardman and MVS, who are the touchdown scorers for the Chiefs. Like, those are the players that you probably think, we don't need to worry about them, like, we can keep them one-on-one. But to be so wide open for the game winner, and while we're on it, I think it's just worth touching briefly on the fact that no one knew the overtime rules. No one had any idea what the new rules were. Mecole Hardman doesn't celebrate because he doesn't realize that he's just won the Super Bowl. He thinks the 49ers get another try, and he doesn't realize that Mahomes is up screaming in his face, and Hardman's like, yeah, we did it. Here we go. Let's play some defense. And he's like, no, like, we just won. We just won the Super Bowl. We just won 2 rings in a row. And you could tell there's lots of conversation about should the 49ers have taken the ball in overtime when both teams get a try. And I think it's interesting looking at basically the conversation with it is, if you take the ball first, you only have 3 downs, whereas the Chiefs know they have 4. The team that get the ball second know they have 4 downs because they know they have to convert everything. So I think it is interesting, but it was really fascinating. Again, my friend I was watching with, who doesn't quite know the NFL as well as I do, was like, well, what happens if time runs out, and what happens if they go back? And I was like, I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. I'm waiting for Robo and Nance to tell me.
The commentators did say, didn't they? They said, if you're all starting to wonder because the time's running down and they don't look like they're rushing to get the playoff or anything like that, they were like, this is just like the first quarter.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't go, oh, you've run out of time, sorry, you lost, because both teams get a go. It would have just been, right, now we swap and you go back up the other side and then we carry on. So both teams get their full go. They were like, this is why they're not rushing and stuff like that. But I just want to quickly point out something. Coach Reid, best coach in the NFL, back-to-back Super Bowls, touchdown scorers, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, McCall Hardman.
Yeah.
That guy deserves these rings, okay? Okay, you've got some great players in this NFL, and you win 2 Super Bowls, and they're your touchdown scorers. You know what I mean? The guy deserves it.
I've seen, I think it was on the Athletic Football show that I was watching this morning, where it was basically saying that because the Chiefs have Mahomes and Andy Reid, it's basically, so you go to the casino and the first thing you do is you put a tenner on roulette and you put it on, your lucky number, and it comes in. And you're already walking away with 360 quid, and you're like, well, I can sort of just do what I want for the rest of the evening because, like, I'm always going to be up. And it's kind of the philosophy that the Chiefs can take now. That they're like, should we try Kadarius Toney? Oh, that's not really worked. Never mind. All right, should we draft? Should we pay MVS a stupid amount of money? That's not right. No, it doesn't matter. Oh, we still won the Super Bowl. All right, should we re-sign McCall Hardman? He's quite shit actually. He's had a really costly fumble. All right, he still caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, and we won a Super Bowl again. What should we do next year? Like, they're playing with house money because they've got the best play caller and best head coach in the NFL and the best quarterback in the NFL, as well as a dominant defense and, a first ballot Hall of Fame tight end. They can just do what they want with all of the weapons. It doesn't matter. The touchdown scorers were MVS and Mecole Hardman, and they won the Super Bowl. Like, that should be such a terrifying phrase for every other team in the NFL, that this was the worst receiving core that Patrick Mahomes will probably ever play with. They traded Tyreek Hill and they won back-to-back Super Bowls. Like, that is so terrifying for the rest of the league.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying though. It's back-to-back Super Bowls, and your touchdown scorers are Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, and Mecole Hardman. This shouldn't be anything that we're talking about. And you go, you look at the 49ers and you go, they've got the absolute best defensive team in the NFL.
Yeah,
and they've just lost to the Chiefs, and their touchdown scorers MVS and Mecole Hardman. It's just. It's not something that we should be saying, but we've still got a bit of time left. I want to quickly say, what did you think of Usher?
So again, millennial, was used to Usher in kind of the mid 2000s, was quite excited for it. The first few songs I was like, nah, I'm not really sure about this. Like, I thought Rihanna was amazing last year. The big group of, the Eminem, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent group was incredible the year before. And after a few songs, I was like, nah, I'm not really convinced. And then Lil Jon and Ludacris came out, and I absolutely popped off, and I went insane. My fiance, who was like half asleep, said that she could hear me and my mate just sort of singing along to Usher, trying to be quite quiet and just having a sick time. Like, the moment Lil Jon and Ludacris came out, I genuinely lost my mind, and I thought it was brilliant. Also, roller skates, brilliant. I think every halftime show should have to have roller skates on.
I thought, what an idiot. Why would you come out in roller skates in one of the most watched things of the year? You've literally gone, I'm going to do this on roller skates. I was like, please fall over. that would be so funny. But no, I kind of agree. I think his singing was pretty awful. I think he can still dance. He was always quite good for his dance. But I'm inclined to agree with you when A-Town Down, Usher, came on, and then Little Jon and Ludacris came out. I was a little bit like, oh my God, I'm back to the nightclubs, and I'm back to being 21 again, and just throw my arms in the air. It was, like I said, I had my eldest daughter who's 15. She was up with me, and she was like, who's that? And I was like, oh my God. Go to bed. Go to bed and get out of my sight now before you sleep in the shed.
Who would your dream Super Bowl halftime show be?
Oh, my dream Super Bowl halftime show has already been.
Okay.
Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Eminem. Mate, I still watch that now because that was just my childhood. That was literally just my childhood. Yeah. But what I will say is, one of the bands that I've been to see live that I thought was absolutely incredible, and I think they'd be amazing for a gig, but I don't know how it would work with the Super Bowl halftime show, was Muse. Went to watch Muse live, and they were incredible, but I don't know. I just get the feeling that they don't like that sort of that type of music as a Super Bowl halftime show. They
basically want a halftime show of a pop singer who is going to make people, so a really popular pop singer who is going to make people that don't watch the NFL stay up to halftime to watch it. So I did see people saying Taylor Swift hasn't done a halftime show. Could that be next year's? Which wouldn't surprise me.
Mate, but can you imagine it would be, Taylor Swift's in the halftime show. Oh, we want the Chiefs to go, and then it'll be it'd be too much. Too much. And she'd come out in a Travis Kelce jersey and stuff like this, and you'd just be like, oh God.
I mean, to be fair, if you look back at her legacy, if they're even still together by then.
Yeah, I think they are. How disappointed were people that bet on I don't know if you're on the NFL UK site on Facebook, the amount of people that were like, oh, I've bet on Travis Kelce to win the Super Bowl and propose to Taylor Swift and stuff like this. And I was like, he's not going to propose to her.
No.
They've only been together properly for probably about 8 months, something like that. It's just
Yeah.
not going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
But we did have more to talk about. Do you want to talk about that because we've got a few minutes left, or do you want to save that for next week?
I think we'll save that for next week. I'd quite like to just briefly touch on. I know we've got a note on him here. I think it's worth kind of talking about Juwan Jennings, and we can save the draft stuff for a show of its own. Because Juwan Jennings, like we went into this, we just spoken about like it being MVS and Hardman scoring the touchdowns, but like Juwan Jennings threw for a touchdown and caught a touchdown, which is the only player to do it in the Super Bowl aside from Nick Foles, which is incredible. Like we talk about all of these weapons on the 49ers, and in the end, it's third and Juwan that ends up making the plays for them. I think this is gonna. We always see massive overreactions for fantasy from postseason performances. And I think people will overreact to this and draft Juwan Jennings. This isn't the kind of player that he is. Like he's not going to consistently perform for fantasy football. He finished the regular season with 19 receptions for 265 yards and a touchdown. Like he's not a consistent weapon for them. But I think, a guy absolutely showing out on the biggest stage of all is something that's really worth touching upon. And yeah, I wanna kind of give him his due for stepping up in the big moment when no one else really was for the 49ers.
So I don't want to be one of them guys, but you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
And his last game was phenomenal. So,
so Juwan Jennings 101.
Whoa. He was good. He wasn't 101 good, 107 maybe.
CMC, Tyreek, Lamb, Gibbs, Bijan, Juwan Jennings, and then we're on to the next tier.
Wow. I really hope that's not your order because you missed out Jefferson and Jamar Chase there.
I was really thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
that wasn't the bit of the running order that I prepared. Where will I take Juwan Jennings in the first round?
Yeah. No, I did put him in the show sheet. I do feel like he deserves a mention because he is a listener to the Rewind show. So we had to get him in there. But no, he they had to do something, didn't they? They had to get a trick play in there, and it was a really good pass. To be fair to CMC,
Sure.
It did look like it was going to be intercepted by one of the Chiefs players. Can't remember which one it was going to be, but he stumbled into another 49ers player. So it probably a bit of fortune their way, but no, Juwan Jennings, like I said earlier, mate, I think if the 49ers would have won, he'd have been in conversation for the MVP of the game. Sure. But actually, he was never going to win it. It was always going to be CMC. It wouldn't have even been Brock Purdy. It would have been CMC. And as much as I hate the 49ers, I would love CMC to have got a ring and something like an MVP, a Super Bowl MVP sort of title as well, because I just think somebody of that kind of talent, he deserves some kind of recognition for what he's done,
No, for sure. And I think the Purdy story would have been and still could be great to end with a ring. I would love to see Trent Williams with all he's gone through with cancer and with the mistreatment from the Commanders organization. I love CMC and I'd love to see him, but I am delighted that the 49ers haven't won a ring. That's the big thing for me. My hatred for them outweighs the fact that I would have liked some of the players to win a ring.
Yeah, if Brock Purdy would have won the Super Bowl, there would have been a Netflix sort of reenactment thing where they'd have got Shia LaBeouf to play, Mr. Irrelevant, and Shia LaBeouf, because he looks like him, would have been playing Brock Purdy, and it would have been his high school thing, and then the draft, and then the 49ers, then the camp, and then going all the way to the Super Bowl and winning it. And it would have been something that I would have watched, but it would have been, so yeah, I'm kind of glad it hasn't gone that way. Maybe people will start putting the eye back on the because they've changed it from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Relevant now.
Yeah,
so
put the eye back on.
Maybe they'll put the eye back on and Sam Darnold will be the starter there next year.
Trade back for Trey Lance.
I feel like we should finish on that. Sam Darnold starting at the 49ers next year. but yeah, so we'll finish the show on that high note there. That brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to us on the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network, and check us out on X at Wildcard Rewind. And it's now draft season, baby. So we'll be getting into rookies, reviews of last year, everything like that. So much content to come, so much to look forward to, and we'll see you all next week when we're back as a trio.